Now to an incredible find overseas, an elaborate series of stone monuments believed to have been hidden for thousands of years, not far from the famous site of Stonehenge. And it suggests that mysteries that shroud this region are bigger than many of us even thought.
For more than 5,000 years, Stonehenge stood in silence, leaving every civilization that tried to explain it with more questions than answers. Ancient kings, historians, archaeologists, and scientists all searched for the truth. Yet the monument's real purpose remained unknown. Then, in 2026, everything changed. Elon Musk's AI system, Grok, was granted access to every scan archaeological survey, astronomical alignment, geological report, and hidden measurement ever recorded from Stonehenge. Researchers supplied the AI with centuries of data and asked it to detect patterns that people may have missed. What Grock revealed stunned researchers across the world. According to its analysis, Stonehenge was never just a ceremonial monument. Instead, it was a structure created with levels of mathematical, astronomical, and engineering precision that should have been beyond what Neolithic humans could accomplish. Before we reveal what Grock uncovered, make sure to like and subscribe. Some believe the real truth about Stonehenge was never supposed to be revealed. The ancient monument. Stonehenge stands on the windswept chalk plains of Salisbury, England, 90 miles southwest of London, rising from the open countryside in a way that has puzzled people for centuries. Not because it's beautiful, although it is, but because it shouldn't even exist. The outer ring is made of enormous sarsen stones, each standing over 20 feet tall, each weighing nearly 25 tons. Quarried from Marlborough Downs, about 20 miles north, and connected with horizontal lintels using joints of remarkable precision. Inside that ring are the bluestones, smaller but still weighing up to 4 tons each, transported from the Preseli Hills of Wales, 140 miles away without metal tools, without wheeled vehicles strong enough to carry them, and without cranes. Think about what that really means. Even modern engineers with advanced equipment consider placing a 25-ton precision-cut stone a major engineering challenge. The common explanation, log rollers, ropes, earth ramps, and endless trial and error, has always struggled to match the physical reality of what was accomplished. And here's what makes it even more unbelievable. The monument was built in several phases stretching from 3000 BC to 2000 BC. The earliest work included digging a circular ditch with an earthen bank. Then came 56 mysterious pits known as the Aubrey Holes. After that came the massive sarsen trilithons, followed by repeated repositioning of the bluestones into layouts that archaeologists still struggle to explain. Around 1600 BC, the site was abandoned, or so it seems. That word doesn't fully describe what Grock discovered when it examined the monument's final chapter. But before we get there, the accepted explanation says Neolithic communities built everything through religious devotion, simple ingenuity, and generations of hard work. Straightforward, human, understandable, that explanation has now collided with 5,000 years of evidence and an AI that never overlooks patterns. What Grock was asked to do. In 2026, a research team assembled the most complete Stonehenge dataset ever created. Every measurement, every archaeological survey, every geological analysis, and every astronomical calculation made at the site over 300 years of research. Petabytes of information, all uploaded into Grok AI, the advanced system developed by xAI, whose neural networks had been specially trained in physics, engineering, astronomy, archaeology, and pattern recognition. The mission was simple: analyze everything and uncover patterns, purposes, and principles that human researchers may have missed. Grok didn't produce just another theory. It delivered a complete reinterpretation of what Stonehenge is, what it was designed to do, and what level of knowledge was needed to build it. The results didn't solve the mystery. They made it even deeper, step by step, with data supporting every conclusion. And if you want to see where this leads, subscribe now before we reveal what the numbers actually show. Because this is the moment that changes the way you look at everything that came before. Grock began with the holes. The Aubrey Holes. The Aubrey Holes are 56 pits arranged in a circle just inside Stonehenge's outer earthwork. Discovered in the 17th century and named after the antiquarian John Aubrey, these pits have confused researchers ever since. Some contained cremation remains. Others appeared completely empty. The slight differences in spacing were long believed to be simple construction mistakes. Neolithic people doing the best they could with primitive tools, nothing more. Grock completely challenged that idea in its very first analysis. The AI examined the exact spacing between all 56 holes using combined survey data, measuring every distance down to tiny fractions of a millimeter. Here's what it discovered. The spacing differences are not random, and they are not mistakes. When you map the distances between each consecutive Aubrey hole and graph the results, you don't see scattered points. You see a smooth sinusoidal wave, one that closely matches the equation describing the Moon's orbital changes during the 18.6-year lunar nodal cycle. The spacing appears to encode the Moon's highest and lowest declination angles as it travels around Earth throughout that complete 18.6-year cycle. Think about what that truly means. This is not a simple sky alignment someone could notice by casually watching the heavens. It is a mathematical encoding of orbital mechanics transformed into physical spacing measurements, accurate to centimeters, built across a circle measuring 100 meters in diameter. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the astronomer asked to verify Grock's results, wrote in her report that the connection between the Aubrey hole spacing and lunar orbital mechanics is statistically overwhelming. The likelihood of this pattern appearing by pure chance is effectively zero. Someone 5,000 years ago understood lunar mechanics at a level that was not formally documented in Western science until Kepler's work during the 17th century, and they carved that knowledge into the landscape. And there's more. Grock also explained why there are exactly 56 holes. The number was not chosen randomly. 56 equals 3 times the 18.6-year lunar nodal cycle. 18.6 multiplied by 3 equals 55.8. Essentially, 56. The Aubrey holes function like a 3-cycle lunar calculator, allowing observers to monitor the Moon's position across 3 complete nodal cycles covering 56 years. Modern astronomers rely on computers and centuries of collected observations to calculate lunar orbital mechanics with this level of precision. These builders encoded the same calculations into holes dug with antler picks 5,000 years ago. To achieve this, someone had to observe the Moon's extreme declination points through at least one full 18.6-year cycle. 18.6 years of careful nightly observation accurate enough to calculate the curve, then convert those values into spacing differences measured in centimeters across a 100-meter circle using instruments that have never been discovered. But this is where the Aubrey holes stopped being the most disturbing discovery Grock made. Because when the AI shifted its focus to the sarsen stones themselves, it realized Stonehenge wasn't just a calculator. It was something far more extraordinary, something that has no real name in any ancient tradition. And the people who died inside it may have lost their lives because of what it was designed to do. Stonehenge as a sound machine. Grock examined every available measurement of the sarsen stones, their positions, orientations, heights, alignments, the density of the stone, the curve of the circle, and the exact placement of the lintels. Then it performed detailed acoustic simulations. The results were unlike anything researchers expected. When fully complete, with every stone standing and every lintel in place, Stonehenge functions as a resonant chamber, a 3-dimensional structure carefully engineered to control sound waves in very specific ways. Its design creates standing waves at particular frequencies, especially within the infrasound range between 95 and 120 Hz. Now here's the surprising part. That frequency range falls below the limit of normal human hearing. You can't hear it, but your body can still react to it. Modern studies have shown that infrasound between 95 and 120 Hz can trigger altered states of consciousness, intense emotional reactions, visual hallucinations, and physical changes, including shifts in heart rate and patterns of brain activity linked to trance states. According to Grock, the builders of Stonehenge designed the monument to generate these exact frequencies whenever sounds echoed inside the circle. Dr. Marcus Chin, the acoustic engineer invited to verify Grock's findings, said the level of precision required to produce these effects is extraordinary. Today, acoustic engineers depend on advanced mathematics and computer simulations to create spaces with specific sound properties. Stonehenge appears to accomplish the same result using nothing more than carefully positioned stones. But here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Grock discovered that the acoustic field is not evenly spread throughout the monument. Instead, the AI identified specific locations inside the circle, points where the infrasound effects would be at their strongest. Those very same spots match the places where cremated human remains have been discovered. These were not random burial sites. They were deliberately placed at locations with the highest acoustic intensity. Anyone standing there during ceremonies involving drumming or chanting would have experienced the monument's most powerful effects. Some of them died there. Whether from natural causes during deeply immersive rituals or from extended exposure to infrasound, we simply don't know. But Grock reached one clear conclusion. Stonehenge was never just a passive place of worship. It operated as an active technology built to influence human consciousness. They created a machine, and the bluestones carried 140 miles from Wales became its instrument strings. The bluestones. Grock's study of them addressed a question archaeologists have debated for decades. Why were those particular stones chosen from that exact location and transported such an incredible distance? The answer Grock uncovered wasn't about transportation. It was about sound. The AI analyzed the geological composition of every bluestone using petrographic survey data from the dataset. What it discovered was remarkable. The bluestones were selected because of their unique sound-producing properties. When struck, bluestone produces clear, long-lasting ringing tones. Different stones create different pitches based on their size, shape, and mineral composition. Grock also found that the bluestones at Stonehenge were not randomly collected from Welsh quarries. They were carefully chosen to produce a harmonic series, tones connected through precise mathematical relationships that musicians recognize as a pentatonic scale. The same five-note scale that appears independently in musical traditions across the ancient world. And there's even more. Those stones are not placed randomly inside the circle. Grock discovered that every bluestone sits at a specific acoustic node in relation to the sarsen ring. When the sarsen stones generate their low-frequency infrasound resonance, the bluestones at those points vibrate in harmony. The sarsen circle produces the main frequency. The bluestones add extra harmonic layers. Together, they create an acoustic environment carefully tuned to affect human physiology in precise and intentional ways. Modern concert hall designers use these same principles, placing reflective and resonant materials at carefully calculated positions to shape a building's acoustics. Stonehenge achieves the same result using massive stones. To select the right ones, someone traveled to Wales, struck individual rocks, listened closely, tested them, and chose the exact stones that produced the required tones before transporting them 140 miles. That's not the result of blind religious devotion. That's quality control for a carefully engineered instrument. Now think about what that really means. The entire project was designed as one complete acoustic and astronomical system long before the first stone was ever moved. The selection of the bluestones, the placement of the sarsens, the orientation of the monument, every detail was planned together as part of one unified design. You don't create something like this by chance. You start with a blueprint. But all of this, the lunar calculator, the acoustic machine, and the harmonic arrangement of the bluestones, turns out to be only the visible layer. When Grock analyzed the landscape surrounding Stonehenge, it uncovered something that completely changes the way we understand the monument. Stonehenge isn't the entire project. It's the central point of something much larger. And that larger system was built first. A landscape planned from above. Grock was given access to LiDAR surveys, geophysical mapping data, and archaeological records covering several square miles around Stonehenge. What the AI uncovered completely changed the perspective. Stonehenge does not stand alone. It sits at the heart of an interconnected landscape filled with hundreds of features: earthwork enclosures, burial mounds, ceremonial avenues, timber circles, and pit alignments, all arranged through geometric and astronomical relationships that Grock identified and measured. Certain burial mounds occupy positions that create precise geometric triangles with Stonehenge at the highest point. Other earthworks line up along straight paths extending for several kilometers. Timber circles stand at locations that mark specific astronomical events when viewed from Stonehenge. The entire landscape follows one coordinated design. Now here's where the story becomes even more remarkable. Grock calculated the level of surveying accuracy needed to position monuments kilometers apart with geometric precision measured within only a few meters. That level of accuracy demands mathematical knowledge historians usually associate with classical Greek civilization almost 2,500 years after Stonehenge. Yet the LiDAR evidence suggests Neolithic builders accomplished exactly that. Dr. Sarah Bradford, an archaeologist specializing in landscape analysis, reviewed Grock's findings and said the AI uncovered patterns that human researchers simply could not recognize while examining sites one by one. When the landscape is viewed as one complete system, the design principles challenge almost everything we believe about Neolithic capabilities. And here's the most remarkable part. Grock discovered that some of the earthworks and burial mounds connected to this geometric network were built between 3500 BC and 3000 BC, approximately 500 to 1000 years before the Sarsen Circle was constructed. The landscape-wide blueprint came first. Stonehenge was built later to complete an already established geometric design. Someone imagined the entire plan around 3500 BC and began bringing it to life. Then their descendants across 20 to 25 generations continued following that same design with enough precision to finish it without written records. Or perhaps they had them. Grock compared this possibility with well-known oral traditions from the historical record. Even the most enduring oral traditions, such as the Vedic hymns and Homer's epics, show clear changes over the centuries. What the Stonehenge landscape seems to require is a level of knowledge transfer beyond anything ever documented in human history. The information remained accurate, consistent, and usable for 500 years. Grock cannot fully explain how, but when it shifted its attention to the construction sequence itself, it uncovered something that made the mystery of knowledge transfer even harder to understand. Because the later builders weren't preserving a tradition at its peak, they were working with a tradition that had already started to fade. And the physical evidence of that decline appears to be preserved directly within the stones, if you know where to look. The knowledge that was already slipping away. Grock analyzed radiocarbon dates, architectural relationships, and stratigraphic sequences throughout Stonehenge's entire construction history. What it discovered was the exact opposite of what we would normally expect. The earliest stone arrangements display the highest level of precision. The original bluestone layouts reveal an advanced understanding of harmonics. The first Sarsen trilithons produced the strongest acoustic resonance. Then the precision slowly begins to decline. Later stones were repositioned in ways that reduced the acoustic effects. The alignments became gradually less accurate. When a society gains knowledge, its abilities usually improve over time. But Grock's analysis shows Stonehenge reaching its greatest level of sophistication at the very beginning before slowly declining. The builders weren't inventing something new, they were inheriting something ancient, and that inheritance was already fading away. The numbers are remarkable. The earliest stones differ from their acoustically ideal positions by an average of only 3.2 centimeters. Later stones miss those same positions by 12.7 centimeters. With every new generation, the understanding of the underlying principles became slightly less precise. Think about what that truly suggests. Someone at the beginning possessed complete knowledge of the acoustic system, the geometric framework, and the astronomical calculations. Someone closer to the end was estimating, trying to recreate the level of precision visible in the earlier work, but no longer fully understanding how it had originally been achieved. Grock found evidence of this in the tool marks. The AI identified distinct patterns on several sarsen stones, showing that different techniques had been used on the same stone at different times. Separated by what weathering analysis suggests were decades or even centuries. Some stones were partly shaped, left unfinished, then returned to and worked again using completely different methods. The contact surfaces tell the same story. Curvature differences measuring less than 2 millimeters across spans of 50 centimeters. A level of precision comparable to metalworking tolerances achieved in stone using only stone tools. Experimental archaeology teams have spent months trying to reproduce similar results, yet have managed only rough approximations. Nothing close to this standard. The earliest builders accomplished something we still struggle to recreate today. By the later stages of construction, even their own descendants could no longer match it. This wasn't a civilization advancing toward greater knowledge, it was one slowly drifting away from it. But the question raised by Grock's analysis, and one it still cannot fully answer, is this. What kind of knowledge was being lost? And why was preserving it so important that its guardians built the most lasting structure they could imagine to protect it? Because Grock discovered that the final phase of activity at Stonehenge wasn't an abandonment at all. What Stonehenge may truly have been built for. When Grock brought everything together, the lunar mechanics of the Aubrey Holes, the acoustic engineering of the stone circle, the harmonic arrangement of the bluestones, the landscape-wide geometry, the astronomical alignments, and the gradual loss of precision, one central idea connected every piece. Cycles. Every part of Stonehenge appears to record cycles. Lunar cycles in the spacing of the pits, solar cycles in the alignment of the stones, acoustic cycles in the resonant frequencies, and long-term precessional cycles in the stellar alignments. The monument seems designed to track patterns repeating across time, from a few days to thousands of years. Grock confirmed the well-known summer solstice alignment, then identified 8 additional astronomical alignments that researchers had never recognized before. Lunar standstill extremes, stellar alignments influenced by precession, and cross-quarter day markers. Across all 9 alignments, the average margin of error was less than 0. 3 degrees, achieved nearly 5,000 years ago using methods we still cannot fully explain. Several of those alignments don't mark single events. They track cycles that require multiple generations to observe from beginning to end. Why preserve knowledge that takes centuries to fully reveal itself? What were they watching that mattered over such an enormous span of time? Grock's analysis of the site's closure around 1600 BC offered the closest thing to an answer. The final activities do not resemble abandonment. Fallen stones were carefully placed on the ground. Certain areas were deliberately covered with earth to protect buried features from erosion. The site appears to have been systematically closed by people who understood they could no longer maintain it, yet wanted it to remain preserved for those who might come after them. That is the behavior of people who know their knowledge is fading away, who cannot pass on a complete understanding to future generations, but who can preserve the structure itself in the hope that a later civilization will one day develop the ability to decode what they left behind. That later civilization is us, and the tool carrying out that decoding is Grock. What Grock uncovered at Stonehenge doesn't look like the beginning of human astronomical knowledge. The evidence points in the opposite direction. It looks like a final transmission. Knowledge that was already ancient, already disappearing, carved into enduring stone because no other medium could survive long enough to carry it into the future. The mathematics is there, the astronomy is there, the acoustic engineering is there, and the geometric precision is there. Every element has been measured, analyzed, and carefully quantified. What still remains unanswered is where that knowledge first came from, or what long period of decline and forgotten history existed before the people who built this monument while no longer fully understanding everything it represented. Grock has opened the door to that question. It cannot answer it completely. but it has provided the evidence needed to ask it in a far more meaningful way. If you want to explore where that question leads, what other ancient monuments may contain the same pattern, and what the cycles they tracked may have been trying to preserve or warn humanity about, be sure to follow along. Because Stonehenge is not the only site where Grock identified signs of fading knowledge. And when that same pattern begins to appear across the ancient world, it becomes much harder to dismiss than most people ever imagined.